the reason this one is in one of my top 10 sort of favorite ones to take you through today is that I've heard a lot of businesses talk about the meetings in their organization are really poorly run or even unnecessary. This seems to be almost like I was going to say a pandemic, but that doesn't feel an appropriate word these days. It's a business problem, a widespread business problem.
Yeah.
And again, there are one or two, there's definitely some thinking out there. And I've come up with, I've distilled it into a couple of, I think, the most important ones. I'm not going to talk about sport now unless people want to, but there's a framework up in the left as a reminder to me that there is an important way of setting up meetings. Mm-hmm. And I would impose this, by the way, as a rule in any business of mine, if I run a big team or a business in future, mm-hmm. that you must have a sport, let's say, for every meeting, and it ensures that the meeting is necessary, that people are well prepared, that you will get to the outcome you want, etc., etc. I can go through that in a minute if people ask me to, but I wanted to focus more on what happens in the actual meeting so you have a successful outcome. Okay. And I really quite like this. And notice the drawing is a meeting where it's all symmetrical, but there is a sort of a first amongst equal, which is the chair of the meeting.
Right.
And you should always have a chair of the meeting, a designated chair. If you come to a meeting, no one's chairing it, you say, "Oh, can I start this meeting? Can I suggest that we start this meeting by deciding who's going to chair it, please?" and normally it'll be you who gets nominated because you've obviously got the most, gumption. Yeah. So what happens is this process I absolutely love, which is the chair starts out by just explaining the context of the meeting, why are we here, and what outcome do we want by the end of the meeting.
Right.
Vital. Write it down on a flip or on a chat, thing. In fact, the outcome should already be in the sport, by the way. That's what the O is. So everyone knew in advance. This is just to clarify. So that's number one. Number two is the people who've been asked in advance to share relevant information, take people through things, should be asked to do that now. And it's whoever's appropriate. And again, that'll be specified in the introduction, in the setup of the meeting, the invitation. Sometimes that can be done all by pre-reading, obviously, but often it's useful to refresh people or take people through latest things, etc. Then, number three is essential if you want inclusivity in your meetings and your business, and that is after the information has been shared, you ask everyone in turn to express their point of view on the matter, and without challenge. So if someone starts to interrupt or say that sounds or undermine what the person has said, it's the chair's job to remind them of the protocol and say, "Oh, hang on, you'll have your say in a minute," kind of thing. Yeah. And that's really important because obviously number three means that even the quietest, most reserved people in the room are given the opportunity to express their thoughts, which we know is very, very important for good decisions and balanced decisions as well.
Right.
Okay. Number four is like what actually tends to happen in most real current business meetings, is that people can then have a healthy debate, just got a proper discussion and, debating the issues that have come out. Okay, so and then the 5 and 6 is just good practice, which is that towards the end of the meeting, if a consensus has been reached, great, easy. If it hasn't, the chair needs to actually say, well, I've listened to the arguments, I've listened to everyone's point of view. We've got to make a decision on this. The decision is going to be this, and for the following reasons. Mm-hmm. And then that's the matter's done kind of thing. That might vary a bit by culture, by the way. I think that might have to vary a little bit by culture, but this might be a little bit Western biased. I'm just being honest with you here. And then number 6 is capturing who, what, and when. As in, always capture who, what, and when the action plan, even if it's just one bullet, one thing. Always do that. Now that I guarantee if you use that and that's deemed to be the way you do it, and you put one of these up in your meeting room on a laminate or something, you will improve your meetings. I'm convinced.
This makes a lot of sense, and there's an issue which I have encountered in the past, and this is something which I learned by talking to some of the attendees of the meeting, and especially the ones who are junior. And what would happen is that even if they are in a room, if the seniors are the ones who do the talking up front, then they kind of start withholding their
Yes, their
views and coming out openly. So while the attendees should be given a chance to express their views without being challenged, then should it also be that it be done in a certain order?
Now, you've done that, you see, and this always happens with these kind of interactive meetings. You always learn something new, and I now want to change the book. It's being printed, by the way. I can't. But not change. I want to do it as a little build, because yes, that's an absolutely brilliant point. By the way, in the cultural differences, another one I was going to mention was that, again, there's a big kind of broadly east-west difference in that, especially in America, actually, everyone is expected to voice their say, and the junior people have no problem expressing something if it's
Correct.
But then I've read a lot about how that is not expected, or it would be surprising for that to happen. So yes, what I'm trying to say is I absolutely agree that a build on number 3 should be, a good practice is to perhaps start with the least experienced, or the person moving up to the most senior.
Nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really good. And I do notice that obviously sometimes the chair, by the way, should also express their opinion. But yeah, that should always come last. I wish I'd reflected on that a bit more. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But in a way, number 5, the chair, kind of they to go last and they express their view, and part of that might be to agree with everyone else or to challenge. Yeah.
So in fact, recently I was reading this book called Working Backwards. It's a book on the processes that were used for Amazon to scale up, and it's written by 2 of the ex-Amazon employees, VPs, and they cover the whole meeting process in a lot of detail. Right. And like we've heard the usual things already, like, they don't use PowerPoints, they use Word files, and then there is a 6-page limit and the reason behind it and all that. But I pretty much see all of the things which you have covered being there in that document, in that, in the way they would run their meetings. But yeah, there are a couple of things which are starkly different, which is that there is an absolute ban on PowerPoint when it comes to Amazon. Not sure if you have any personal thoughts on it. If you have, then maybe you can share.
You mean in the relevant information shared area sort of thing? How you actually share it? Yeah, I don't express any preference one way or another, or rules for or against it. I mean, my overall advice would be extremely succinct, because a lot of people will never read it. Well, a lot of people don't read them anyway, and I think that's a problem, and I'm sure that comes up in the Amazon thing as to why. And again, that can be a protocol, which is if there's pre-reading, which it's part of the sport process, by the way. You will be expected to have read it. You can't get away with not. But then that only works if there's a maximum time length. So I personally wouldn't say whether it should be PowerPoint or Word necessarily, but I would certainly say it has to be extremely succinct. It's a summary, it's not a lazy kind of dump of all the data kind of thing. It's the opposite. Right. That's a nice build, actually.
Awesome.
And I do like the idea of Word, because Word implies you've had to make it cogent, sentences and thoughts rather than images, and I'm not quite sure what it actually is saying.